welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Lita's music hits. Of all the things that you expect to hear when a Raw starts, this is not one of them. She comes out, and this was a really quick segment just to introduce the top 10 contestants on this year's Tough Enough. And while we're on the subject of Tough Enough, I figured I would point out that the ratings are out, and the third week from this past week actually has the highest rating of any episode so far. It actually had a higher rating than the debut episode.
Well, that's good at least.
The debut episode only had well, I shouldn't say only, but for a debut it was still pretty low. The debut episode only had about 1.21 million viewers, and I'm reading here that the last week's episode had 1.22 million viewers. So even though it wasn't a huge jump, it was still about at least 10,000 people more watched the third episode than watched the debut, which is a real oddity because in anything, like even if you want to talk about like the most popular, even if it's an awful show in my opinion, the most popular show on TV is probably The Big Bang Theory, and their debuts always get huge numbers and then they get almost cut in half after that.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've been reading, Tough Enough has been getting a lot of negative press. The wrestling friends that I have on Facebook, like a lot of them seem to be against the season. I'm enjoying it.
Well, I don't know if you've heard or not, but apparently that woman that just got fired a few days ago, that Lisa Fox Lee, I think her name was.
Yeah.
Apparently she had something to do with either the format or the casting of Tough Enough this year, and that's why they fired her, because they've gotten such a horrible feedback from people that have seen Tough Enough.
Oh, wow. It's always
that's just a rumor. I don't want to try and make that seem like that's a factoid or anything. That's just a rumor that I've actually heard from a few different people.
Yeah, I mean, I could honestly believe it with the whole corporate structure and everything of WWE, but, like we said, it's purely conjecture. But yeah,
I'll tell you what, John, now that we're on the subject of Tough Enough, because we've never talked about this season of Tough Enough on a video before. Like, we've been watching, we've been keeping up, we love the Tough Talks afterwards, we think it's great. Do we want to kind of give a little bit of an idea to everyone who some of our favorites are, other than Patrick, which is kind of a given that everyone loves?
Yeah, I mean, well, really, for me, it is kind of just Patrick. I think the only other person I've really gravitated to that's not really him would be Tanner, and I guess on the female side, I guess I really like Georgia after this. After the last episode we watched.
Yeah.
But I still think Sarah Lee is adorable, but she's definitely got to show something because Paige has it out for her. She's even said, like, until you do something, I'm going to keep
You know why, right?
choosing you. Why is that?
Because they have such a similar look. Now, I'm not saying that they look like each other, but if you would make like a silhouette of Paige and then make a silhouette of Sarah Lee, they would look sort of similar. Like, I seriously think Paige has it out for Sarah Lee, and she's targeting her so much because Sarah Lee kind of has that alt girl look where she's got like the dark hair and the pale skin and the nose ring and that kind of stuff, and Paige doesn't want anyone competing for that spot with her.
Right.
I'm not joking. Like, it sounds like a joke, but let's not forget the first episode of Total Divas, Natalya was freaking out because she didn't want Eva Marie to be a blonde, because that would be more blondes for Natalya to have to compete with as far as TV time goes and that kind of stuff. So the fact that Sarah Lee kind of has that alt look that Paige has sort of monopolized on the WWE's main roster and really in the company as a whole, I think that Paige doesn't want her even getting an opportunity, much less winning Tough Enough.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people seem to love ZZ. I'm kind of hot and cold with him. Personally.
I don't like him. And the reason I don't like him is because I don't think that he wants to be a pro wrestler. I think that ZZ would be an amazing stand-up comic or a comedic actor. He could be, if he wanted to, he could probably be the next Jonah Hill. Yeah, that guy. If he really wanted to, I think that he could get to like the super bad Jonah Hill kind of style, but I don't think he wants to be a wrestler. And if he wanted to be a wrestler, he would have at least attempted to get in shape for Tough Enough.
See, that's my thing too. Like, he's not in ring shape, I'll say.
He's not in any kind of shape. He even came out and said, I'm in shape, Brown's a shape. Well, dude, you're not in shape.
And my thing is too, like, he's 18. So, like, if it doesn't work out for him, it's not like it's the end of the line.
Well, he's 18, Patrick's 19.
Yeah, but I mean, Patrick, I think, though, is like leagues ahead of ZZ.
That's what I'm saying, though, is like the fact that ZZ and Patrick are on the same show, and people are it's up to people to vote for who is going to stay on the show. If it comes down to Patrick and ZZ, people would vote for ZZ just because of his personality, but that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, you've got to have the full package. I don't think Patrick is void of personality at all.
Because Patrick, here's the thing with Patrick. He has personality. He's 6'3", right there, boom, he's checking off stuff that WWE likes. He's ripped to shreds. He's got wrestling experience. And above all else, he has passion for the business.
Oh, he loves the business.
Yeah.
Like, on one of the Tough Talks about it, I think it was the most recent one, they posed the question, like, who got up at 5:30 in the morning to watch Beast in the East.
And Patrick was the only one, and Hulk Hogan was like, well, as far as I'm concerned, brother, we can just end this whole show right now, and Patrick wins.
Yeah. I mean, that's how much the guy loves the business, and, like, everybody else may have watched it, like, you know, after the fact. I think it was either
Tanner.
Josh or Tanner. It was Tanner. Couldn't even, like, say what match Paige had on the show.
Yeah, it was Tanner.
And
he said, he even, you know what annoys me too is, and I love Tanner, so this is one of the very few things that he's done that I am against or that I dislike. I hate it when people are thinking about something that they did or didn't do, and they're lying, and in the process of lying, they're saying they think they did something or they think they didn't do something. Because with Tanner, they were saying, so did you ever watch the show at all? And then he was like, yeah, I do believe that later that day I still watched it. And then they said, do you know who Paige fought? And he said, no, I don't. And that was just it. Like, it's so obvious that he was lying that he never watched it, because if he would have watched it, it was, I mean, here's my thing, even if he wasn't familiar with Tamina, he still could have at least said, well, I know that Nikki Bella was involved. But he just had no clue because he just straight up did not watch the show, and then he lied about not watching it.
And see, like, that didn't annoy me so much as, like, what happened, like, soon after, because after Patrick pretty much humiliates everybody, Tanner, you know, starts trash talking, and he's like, oh, you know, Patrick is just totally fake, and this and that, like, making these accusations towards Patrick. And Patrick pressed him multiple times, well, can you give examples? Can you give examples? Can you give examples? Yeah. And Tanner just could not give examples.
Well, so, and like, Tanner did try to give an example. He said that Patrick has got experience in the wrestling business, and Patrick said that he hasn't been lying about that because nobody brings it up, and he doesn't want to be the indie guy because he's seen, and sadly enough, Son of Havoc, aka Matt Cross, M-Dog20, whatever you want to call him, was on Tough Enough in 2011, and he got cut for basically being too experienced and them not seeing enough of a ceiling with him. So Patrick realizes that guys that are labeled with that indie guy label don't do well in Tough Enough, and he wanted it to be known that unless somebody comes out and says who here has wrestling experience, he's not going to tell anyone about it because it's not necessarily something that he wants to be known for. It's just rather than Patrick has wrestling experience, it's Patrick wants to be in the WWE, and he just also happens to have about a year of experience, from what I understand.
Exactly, and that's another thing, too. First of all, it's only 1 year, so it's not like he was, like, trailblazing the indies or anything.
That's just from what I understand. I don't want to come out here and make it seem like that's a declarative statement where I know for a fact that that's true. That's just what I've read.
And that's fine, because it still doesn't negate my second point.
Right.
Patrick, you know, in his impassioned rebuke of Tanner's, you know, claims, you know, says, I came here to learn the WWE style. I love that he made that distinction.
Yeah, because you have guys like Josh and even Alex, before he got eliminated, coming in and saying, I'm a blank slate. Patrick has essentially turned himself into a blank slate. He's got no ego about in the ring as opposed to anyone else, because he's there not to try and show anybody what he does that works, but to learn what works in WWE.
Exactly.
That being said, though, I do like Josh. He is in my opinion, he is the second best male contestant on the show. And people are going to get on my case because he's that Vince McMahon look guy, but he's a charismatic SOB. He's got charisma. He's got a definite natural allure to him that not only women are going to be attracted to, but I think guys see him as like a real dude. Like it's kind of like a few years ago when The Rock cut that promo on John Cena saying, "We see right through fake BS." I think that Josh is kind of the opposite of that, where he comes off as the genuine article.
I think Josh really showed me something on the latest episode.
The character acting, yeah.
Yeah, the character acting when he was quick to react to crisis, because before he was called up to show his stuff, he was going through like, oh man, all of this explicitly British, English merch isn't going to fit me. Like none of these costumes are going to fit me. So instead of like coming out with, the British flag and just making it seem like, hey guys, I'm an English character, like that's my thing. He improvises with a really well done accent and a look like, showing off that physique, playing to his strengths. And I think he did really well in a time of crisis. He was very responsive to the problems that he encountered. And yeah, that was very impressive to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and by the way, I completely agree with you about Georgia. She, as far as I'm concerned, she's the only complete package female on the show right now.
Yeah.
I think that Sarah Lee has the best look for what she's trying to do. There are a lot of people that think Gabby or maybe even Georgia, and I think Georgia's gorgeous. Like, she freaking rhymes and everything. But I think that as far as being able to stand out, I think that wrestling nerds all over the planet are going to be drooling because Sarah Lee has that, like, she's adorable and she's really, really attractive, but she has that attainable look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Like the girl next door kind of thing.
Exactly.
And that's gonna win her a lot of bottom 3 votes.
Yeah, definitely.
And it even has so far. I mean, I feel like a couple weeks ago when she was in the bottom 3, she got like 26% of the vote, and then this past week she got like 32% of the vote or 35% or something like that. So she's getting more and more popular the more Paige picks on her, it seems.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying this season, actually, and it's funny to me that people are complaining about it. I think the people that are complaining about it are only complaining about it because it's so different than previous seasons, because they kind of took it from a show where you get to watch people learning how to wrestle to kind of a combination of like the Real World Road Rules Challenge and like an American Idol, The Voice kind of show jammed into 1 hour.
Right.
Because you've got these physical challenges that they do that have really nothing to do with wrestling. Although, what I have noticed as a trend is there are usually 2 physical challenges every week. One has nothing to do with wrestling. The other does have something to do with wrestling. And the ones that have to do with wrestling aren't even necessarily physical, because just, I don't know if it was this past week or the week before. I think it was the week before. They had the swimming challenge and then the bump challenge, right?
Right.
And this past episode, I don't think they even had a physical challenge. I think that the entire show kind of revolved around the character acting thing.
Yes.
So right there, even though not every challenge that they do relates to wrestling, I think that they're finding out what kind of durability and endurance these people have while simultaneously testing them as far as the wrestling stuff goes. And then I actually enjoy the in-studio segment of the show with Jericho and Paige and Hogan and Bryan, not even necessarily because there's anything about the format itself that I enjoy, just because I love Daniel Bryan, Hulk Hogan, and Paige and their personalities when it comes to criticizing these people, because it's got such an American Idol feel to it, because Paige is like the arrogant British person that hates everyone. Daniel Bryan is like the Paula Abdul, where he's just a sweetheart and he feels bad for not letting people through and that kind of stuff. And then you have Hulk Hogan in the middle, who might not necessarily say a lot, but what he does say, it sticks. And it means something.
Definitely.
So you've got like the Simon Cowell, Paula Abdul, Randy Jackson dynamic going on there. And I just think that it's, I don't know, there's something about that I am drawn to and that I really like, and I just enjoy the show.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it as well. It's good viewing. If any of you haven't checked it out yet, give it a watch. And if you're on the fence, well, hopefully these following episodes will kind of pull you to, I'm enjoying the season. So we'll see what happens.
And I think I'm going to cut this whole segment that we just had talking about Tough Enough out of the Raw review and post it tomorrow night around the time that Tough Enough actually happens.
Sounds great to me.